welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. Once again, I've gotten a little bit ahead of myself with progress here on my industrial area project, and I wanted to make sure that I get just a video in before I get too far ahead. So let me just see if I can catch you up on what I've been doing. The last time I put a video up, I was just doing all this plaster work. And it wasn't painted or anything. It was actually just starting to dry when I made the video. But I'm pretty much done with that stuff. I had to make this pad to elevate the building so that the tracks would be at the height of the concrete. This way any trucks or anything coming through here can drive over the tracks. And obviously the areas that are not going to be driven over don't matter. So, you know, I did bring the grout and the ballast up as far as I could, but I wanted to make it a little bit, you know, beat up looking. So I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I tried to weather the ties and just put a little, you know, a little rust here and there, so kind of like just to make it look a little bit more industrial. And I'll probably go back and do a little more now that the ballast is dry. I did use grout. That's a finer gray stuff that you see here, and in some areas I even use some pastel chalks and powders and things to make it look a bit more, you know, used. Once I had finished all the painting and everything, I tried running the cars through, and I realized that everything was a little too high and it was catching the flanges, so I had to go back and make more space between the tracks, and that required me to go back once again and repaint all the spots that, you know, got pulled up with the plaster. But actually, I liked what happened, because when I went back, well, let me say this: when I originally put the paint down, I let it dry, and then I went through with once again with pastel, and just made it look a little darker. And just kind of let it take its natural course as to, you know, where the dirt and stuff you know, landed. And so I like the way that looks. It looks just more run down. But then what happened was, when I went back to paint, the original color was very clean looking, like that. So you see all the patchwork that I had to do there, and this even cracked and lifted, so I glued it back in. But here's the thing: I left it like that because I like the way it looks like real construction, like somebody came back and patched those areas up. So I kind of, once I did it, I was a little upset, and then I realized that it might actually be a better situation. And so now that I know what that looks like, I might go back and just do things that were not cracked in the first place, and just put little patches here and there, just to make it look a little better. This pad I painted like a really dark gray. It's a black. It's called charcoal. Charcoal gray, it's called. But it looks, you know, like fresher pavements. So I'm going to assume that this area was built later, or repaved. And then again, I went back with chalks and things and just kind of made it look all beat up. Another mistake I made was that as I was spraying the alcohol and the glue, it made these little like marks along the track here. And then again, I realized, hey, I kind of like this, so I left it alone. And so that's where I'm at. So yeah, so basically I did all that. I painted it. And then also, I'm not sure if this was done yet, but these two spurs, this one I finished completely. And this one I'm almost done. I added the, this is glued down, this is not glued down yet. But what's going to happen here is that that's going to be where all the wood chips get dumped to then go into the, you know, processing plant for the wood chip thing, you know, the paper mill. So I found these images online that I'm going to put over here, and I think they look great. They really blend in, and it looks like, you know, like the wood chip piles. So I'm gonna put one there, one here, you know, when you take a picture, once these things are set up correctly, they look pretty good. And I'll figure something out to put here for this track to, you know, to mask that a little bit. Obviously the wire won't be there. Another thing that I'm not sure if I showed you was the access hole here that allows me to bring the train further into the wall, giving me more room for this lead in case I want to use, you know, push more cars around in this area. For example, over here I can actually get 3 tan cars into the spur here. So I wanted to be able to get the locomotive and 3 tan cars in, and then be able to kind of push around. Same thing with these wood chip cars. I wanted 4 of the smaller ones, or, you know, 2 or 3 of the longer ones. So I wanted a little bit more room. That's why I made that access hole the way you see it there. So that's it. Now, where I made major progress is on this side of the layout. As you can see, this side of the industrial area. I don't know, I just got going, and before you know it, I was doing scenery, I was doing everything. It originally started with this building here, which was basically supposed to be a simple transfer house. I wasn't going to make it this big, I was going to make it like, you know, up to there. So then I realized maybe I should just make it like another thing, like another industry where you would, you know, drop off 2 boxcars, you know, and it would be like a holding track. You know, these 2 are holding tracks, but also it could be used as a way to switch cars through the spurs. So, you know, in case you haven't seen any of my videos on this area, the idea is that these are the mains. I got a short line here and the 2 mains are here. So if a train pulls in, the idea is you can back into these holding tracks here and dump whatever whatever you're delivering to this area. And at the same time, you know, the switcher engine can set up a train in this track here, which would be kind of like an arrival departure. So you can set up all the cars here so that when the train comes on the main, it could just grab them and go. So that's where all that came from as far as track planning. But yeah, so let me go back to this building. I started to scratch build, and I wasn't even going to make a big deal of it, but I am super happy with how this came out. There's a gentleman by the name of Lance, I forget his last name. He's got a really cool HO scale layout that's actually based in Miami. So, you know, he's got palm trees and all this stuff, but the way he makes his buildings are truly spectacular. He makes them with like wood, with the paint chip look, like, you know, everything's like faded and it looks really beat up and industrial. So I kind of took a bunch of his ideas just from looking at the images and went with it. And see, I was trying to do it myself. I've never, you know, learned how to do it. It's not like a method. I just kind of looked at the pictures from his layout and tried to duplicate what he's doing. Now, it's obviously not the quality that he does it. He's been obviously more experienced with this kind of stuff, but I thought that for my first attempt, this came out really nice. And as I was building it, I ended up getting more details than I even expected into this. So let me just take you through the building. I'm going to first get this nail out of my sock because it's stabbing me in the foot. All right, that's out. Let me just get this boxcar out of here. So I'll start from this side here. I basically built the whole thing out of styrene. The paint is basically like an aged concrete paint. And you know, I know you can see the brush marks, but I don't really care because it's supposed to look, like I said, just really old and decrepit, like it's been sitting here for a very long time. The gutters I made out of styrene, just plastic, you know, like square stock. Like, let's see if I have anything here. This stuff. So I took a little heat to it, and you know, I bent it to shape, and that's how I made that. Then I weathered it, and then the top part is actually made out of just like a U. Let me see if I have any of that. Oh yeah, here it is. This is just like a U shape styrene. I don't know if you can see that there. and I just cut a little piece, and then I shaped it to look like those catches, those gutter, catches. So I made one there, and I made one there. The vent is just one of those rooftop detail Walters kit things. It's supposed to have like a back to it, but I just didn't use the back, and I sanded it down so it was flush against the wall. And I did that. The way I did the chipping here is that since the brush strokes were sideways, as the paint was starting to dry, I just took my thumb with the pad of my finger and just kind of rubbed down, and it started chipping with those kind of like parallel lines because the paint was drying in that format, and I thought that came out really cool. I just kind of did it naturally. So, but the other paint chips, I did it with just because I couldn't get my thumb in there. I did it with like a metal, any kind of scraping tool, like a little screwdriver or a little rod, a little metal rod or something, and just went through. Now I did gouge out the sides here with a blade to make it look like the concrete was actually falling off, like it had cracked and had just fallen off. So you can see I made some deeper than others, but it makes it look more textured. And some of this stuff is just basically gunked up paint, or there's some like dust or something, that was on the plastic that just got caught up in there, and I just left it, and it looks really good. So that's why I achieved that. Then I just took like a black ink wash, like a Indian ink kind of thing, and just went through it lightly and started building it up so it looks like all that soot and whatever, all the rain, the dirty rain and stuff has been sticking to it. Now let me get to the platform. This is what I'm really excited about. I decided to paint that blue stripe across to give it more texture, more depth, and a little bit to make it more interesting. Because I have seen that in industrial buildings. Not really sure why they do that. I don't know if it's a decorative thing or if it's a functional thing, but I've seen it a lot in pictures and things. And the deck once again is all built out of the same material. The only thing I did is I put a styrene, one of those square stock styrene rods right at the edge, so it looks like a lip all the way across. Then I just took my blade and cut those lines in to make it look like they're big blocks of concrete, and then just weathered in between to just give it a little more depth once again. Then I put some weather on the bottom too to make it look like it's kick up from the rain or whatever has gotten on the concrete. I might go back even further and do more, and then just stains and things that people have spilled, paint or whatever that has been spilled as they make their transfers from the boxcars. This is a big old air conditioner unit. That's again one of those rooftop air conditioner things, but I just made it look like one of those industrial wall units. And the way it's mounted is with piano wire. I just bent it to that shape, and I put two little holes on the bottom. I drilled them in to just push them in, and then I just glued them, and it looks pretty nice. Then obviously I added rust stains and things like that. The door is actually from a Pike Stuff kit, one of those buildings that typical Pike Stuff buildings. I just had extra doors, so I used that. Then I went ahead and made control boxes for the gate. A little yellow, basically just a little yellow piece of styrene, and more piano wire for the piping. So obviously I had to make 3 of those since I have 3 gates. The gates I made out of basic styrene sheets that came, in that design. And it looks like a gate. Then I just painted it. Sorry, I'm trying to get focus here. I painted it actually gray, and then I went over with pastels and made it look really rusty and old. Then these are Shapeways crates. I bought just the molds. And what I did is I painted them like a tan to make it look like wood. Then I painted some of them blue because I have seen a bunch of blue crates around in pictures and things. So that gives it a little bit more realism. And then I weathered them. You know, I put a little dust and dirt and grime and whatever on them. These two guys are obviously working here. This guy's either trying to pull a pallet off or he's just trying to climb or push one in or whatever. It looks, he's really supposed to be climbing a staircase, but I thought it looked good there with him working right there. This happened by mistake. These, sorry, that's really hard to focus this thing. These gates that you see up here, they were going to be just random like platform things, and then I was gluing this thing kind of sideways, and it fell into place like that, and it looked like, you know, it could be like either some kind of drainage thing or like a heater for the deck, you know. I put two of them in here, and I thought those came out really cool. Then I just took some piping from, it's actually from a one of those Walters refinery piping kits, and I chopped off one of them going one way and one of them going the other way, and just put them there like something's supposed to be either coming out of there or going into there. More like a drainage kind of thing, but I thought that looked really cool, so I just went with it. I have no idea what it does, but who cares. More control boxes, more gates. This I made pretty much last minute. It's like a patch job. Somebody must have written some nasty stuff there on the wall with graffiti, and they went back and they couldn't find the right blue, as usually happens. So they just made it with the closest thing they could find, just as like a rush job, and they patched it up. So it looks horrible, which is supposed to be that way. These are some, you know, wood, little like, I don't know, 4x4, whatever, some kind of lumber wood I got from Shapeways also. Painted those up. These barrels are actually pewter. And you can see there's a little red popping out of the back, because in my old layout I had them shiny red, because I was into everything looking perfect. And I realized that this is a lot more fun. So I rusted them up and made them look horrible. Really old. So there you go. More wood chipping. I keep saying that. More paint chips everywhere. This really needs a paint job. Did a little weathering coming off the grate. With that thing up there. And then this I'm pretty proud of. This is some delinquent I got to the gate and decided to put graffiti on the gate. But I made that freehand. I actually took a little piece of piano wire, dipped it in paint, and I looked up some tags on the internet, and just tried to copy kind of like this style. And I thought that came out pretty good, especially, you know, when you see it from there. So that's that. And then over here we have some more crates. This was another mistake that I made that ended up being good. So I had this compressor from another kit from a gas station. So I kind of just weathered that up a little bit, made it look more rusty and a little bit more dull. And then what I did is that black hose right there is actually left over from when I cut the styrene with the blade. What I do is I cut it with the sharp edge, and then I flip the blade over and I cut it with the dull edge, and it actually removes that much material, like every time you sweep through it. It's a little hair here. And so as you sweep, you get these little like curly cute, those look like those skinny French fries. So I just took one of them that looked kind of like, you know, a long hose, and I painted it black. I just kind of dipped it in black paint, and now it looks like there's a hose just sitting there. You know, I find that hoses that you purchase or that you try to make generally look a little too thick. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, you know what? That's actually going to look okay. I know it's not like smooth. But you know what? When you're looking at it from here, all you see is a hose. You don't see the little things, the little imperfections as you take in the whole scene. Now, I don't know, I might go back now and make columns, like one here, you know, every so often, without blocking the scenery, but I feel like it looks so good. I mean, this could be held up by I-beams. I've seen that, where the I-beams go through and they just kind of hang over and they support the, you know, the top. But I might go back and do those columns. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe you guys can vote on that and let me know what would be better. So that's basically it. The roof is the only thing I haven't like done too much with. I just kind of painted it black, but it is removable. I can just pop it off, which is nice because I'm going to be putting lights under there that I have to feed through the top and do all the wiring in here. I also want to put some lighting in the building so you can see it coming through the door. And I left this gate a little bit open so it looks, so you can see the light kind of peeking through. But I want to make it really dull looking. I might put a few small vents here, and then I want to do like some faded signage, maybe with like a decal, and then just kind of paint over it so it looks like it's really faded. I don't know what it's going to say, but we'll see. And then I want to put one last light, like one lonely light here, shining down, like really dull, just to give the side of this building a little bit of light. So that's that. And now the last element I added today were trees, because I was trying to figure out, you know, how to blend this whole scene in. And I was thinking of putting more buildings and more buildings and more buildings, and I thought, you know what? It actually looks good with trees. And I was afraid because I know industrial areas don't have a lot of trees, but I did come across a bunch of pictures with industrial areas that have a lot of trees actually. But they're usually kind of out of the way in areas that are not very tight. Like, you know, you wouldn't see a tree here, like right in there, or here for that matter. But sometimes in these corners that are next to buildings and things, you see a tree because they don't bother cutting it down. It's out of the way. You know, as long as it's not hitting the track or anything, we're good. The other reason I put the trees back here is because I wanted to mask this hole. That's, again, another problem that I had with trying to get the train lead to be a little longer, so I built it into the wall. Now I am going to fill it up a little more by putting a little more vegetation here, just so you don't see it, because you still kind of see it from here. So I'm going to try to mask it better. But you know, I might even just paint that part of the wall a little bit green so it kind of blends in. It doesn't look like, you know, that blue sticking out. And this little tree, I love the way, actually I was going through my super trees and all of a sudden I cut this little guy off and it looks so good that I want it to be like just like a front and center kind of thing. So it looks really nice. And that was today. I put one back there also, just because when you see it from like this angle here, it kind of gives it depth. It makes it feel like there's a lot of stuff back there. So that came out nice. This bridge I just got from Shapeways, from this guy called well, he goes by the name Engineer, and he does a lot of N-scale stuff, and this is one of the things he does. I also bought the loading cages and the pumps that attach to the side of the building, and he doesn't attach them initially because first of all they could break off when he ships them, and secondly because you could paint them easier and then just glue them on. But there are those kind of square cages that go over the tank tops, and then there's like hose, you know, like loading pumps and cranes that I got also. So that's that. Now the last thing I wanted to show you is that I was able to light up these 3 buildings here. Not fully, I still have a little more to do, but I got a lot of it done. And I wanted to see if I can just show you that when I turn the lights off, because it looks really good. The camera might not pick it up as well as, you know, seeing it live. but I mean, it looks cool. It looks like you're approaching a real industrial area. And I decided to go with the white lights in that building because to me it looks a little bit more modern. So they might have put, you know, white lights instead of the old-fashioned yellow, you know, factory lights like these two buildings have. It also gives it a little more contrast. So I thought that came out real neat. Looks good. These lights are a little bright still. I might put another, I do have a resistor on there already, but I might put another one. Just to, you know, dim it a little because especially this one is like brighter. I don't know why. So that's that. That's where I'm at. I have a lot more work to do, but at least it's really coming together. And like I said, I'm really happy with this side right now. I think it looks great. Once all the lights are up and that building's put back together and all lit up, and obviously I'm gonna make a massive like chemical kind of thing there. That's actually supposed to be the chemicals for the paper mill. So this whole thing is really supposed to be like one production. And then there's a lumber facility here and a transfer house. But you know, things change as you go, so who knows what that might be by the time I'm done. But the good news is that all the track work is working. I have everything's pretty much hooked up. All the frog juicers are in. So, you know, I did the slow motion test, and the engine is able to get through all the, you know, all the concrete areas and things like that without clinging or getting stuck or stuttering or anything like that at very low speeds. So that's super cool because these trains don't move fast in these kind of settings. And that's that. So I'm glad I got this video in because I was getting way ahead of myself, and I was able to share it with you guys. So as always, if you want to check out my YouTube channel for more on this project or other things that I've been doing around the layout, please subscribe. Here's my YouTube channel. It's called Rhythm Railroad. I have 89 subscribers. Got me to 90. I need one more. 100 would be nice too. But I don't do it for the numbers really. I do it just for the fun. And you know, there's all kinds of videos. Obviously, these are the first few, but check it out and let me know what you think. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one.